This is Dropping Soccer's morning show. It's Soccer Down Here. John, here, you there. And for the next little bit, we'll talk about the weekend. We'll talk about what happened yesterday in Europa League, Europa Conference League. We'll go through all of that stuff. We'll get you ready for the weekend. Hour number 2, we'll have the weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. Neal Ruhl is going to join us. Yes, it is, Michael. It's Friday. I need that drop, basically. Neal Ruhl is going to join us at 10 o'clock to discuss Le Rouge, Detroit City FC. And we had Kaylor Hodges on from the USL show yesterday to kind of talk about the opening round of the playoffs in general. But I wanted to try to catch up with Neal, the longtime voice of Detroit City, to kind of give a bit of a refresher as to the season and what it's like up there at Keyworth. What's it been like for him to see the team grow from the NPSL group that they are to where they are now in USL Championship. There's stuff to talk about with Trevor James, but the idea of an 8 seed blowing out a 1, figuratively, not literally, it was a 1-goal game, but Pittsburgh gets sent packing. Bob Lilly is still probably yelling at the team 5 days later, 6 days later. And I just wanted to bring Neal in and break down everything from the perspective of an 8 seed. And so we'll have Neal on at 10 o'clock. Hopefully our friends from Beyond Goals will be able to join us at 9:30, where we can talk mentoring and the Friday free kick. And we got, like I said, we got stuff. We got stuff to talk about. Not 38 games in Major League Soccer, overlapping all over each other. But yeah, we'll talk about all of that too. We'll go over juice boxes, and we'll go over all of the facts and all the fun and all this kind of stuff. So it's another stacked show from now until 11:05. And thanks to all of you folks for hanging out with us as you always do here on a Freestyle Friday. So, all right. So here is opening kickoff, and I'm gonna hide my hand here. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's the QR code for hour number 1 as I cover up the QR code for hour number 2. And thanks to our friends at Kickoff Coffee, you can use the code SoccerDownHere15 to get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There. I actually made it work that time. So, all right. This story went by the wayside yesterday because I didn't have time to talk about it. So I'll bring it up this morning. But once again, Soccer Down Here 15. Use the code 15% off. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it in the youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I don't know if you've heard of this gentleman by the name of Johnny Infantino, but he's in charge of a fairly powerful soccer organization, and he has, he's been spending time in court over the last handful of years. And our friends at the Telegraph have the resolution of the most recent time, and it's Morgan and Gibbs. So when there's more than one writer attached to a story, that there's a lot to it. So Tom Morgan and Tom Gibbs have the story of Gianni Infantino. And he has now, for the last 3 years, been in court. But now the court case is no longer a court case, and he claims to have been vindicated. Here's your background. He has boasted of a full and clear victory for me, for new FIFA, and for justice, after the closure of criminal proceedings into secret meetings involving the president. The case had been open for 3 years since complaints were made over contact with Switzerland's former attorney general and federal prosecutor. It was the worst corruption scandal FIFA had been facing since 2015. You remember our boy Sepp Blatter being banned for the sport, several dozen officials indicted for corruption charges. Morning, Sharif. Lauber The former former AG in Switzerland, was the head of an ensuing investigation, but FIFA maintained since 2020 that it was legitimate and legal for Infantino to meet with the Attorney General of the country. Investigators were looking into 3 alleged secret meetings among Infantino, Lauber, and Arnold, which took place in 2016 and 2017. However, Swiss extraordinary federal prosecutors. I mean, I guess these federal prosecutors just must be the ish if they are extraordinary federal prosecutors. That's their title. No lie. Swiss extraordinary federal prosecutors. Hans Maurer and Ulrich Vedder have now dismissed the proceedings. FIFA then decides that they're going to declare, now it is official, Gianni Infantino has always acted absolutely correctly and lawfully in his relations with the Swiss public prosecutors who are investigating the old FIFA. Quote, the new FIFA today, and I'm sorry, I'm already laughing and I apologize. I feel like I'm giving away the punchline. The new FIFA today is a clean, well-run, and robust organization which operates in accordance with the highest ethical and governance standards. Maurer and Vader, the extraordinary federal prosecutors, took over the investigation in May of 21 after prosecutor Stefan Keller was removed from his position after a court ruled he could not, quote, guarantee a fair process, end quote. FIFA adds it takes note, quote, with extreme satisfaction of the decision of the 2 extraordinary federal prosecutors. I can't get over that title either. Hans Maurer and Ulrich Vader to dismiss and definitively close the proceedings against Gianni Infantino in relation to the so-called Lauber case. The outcome of this investigation is obviously entirely unsurprising. The only surprising element is only the long time taken to reach such an obvious conclusion. Quote from Infantino. Quote, yes, Hutch, meet the new FIFA, same as the old FIFA. Quote, this is a full and clear victory for me, for the new FIFA, and for justice. See, now the thing is that I can't read this quote without hearing it in Infantino voice. It is now clear that the accusations against me were mere attempts by poor, envious, and corrupt people to attack my reputation. If these people have some dignity left, they should at least have the decency and apologize for their actions and the damage caused. The investigation fully and clearly confirms that I have always acted in a lawful and correct way, always defending exclusively the interests of FIFA and football. An investigation into alleged misuse of a private jet. You know, I needs a private jet. By Infantino in 2017 was closed earlier this year by the Switzerland office of the Attorney General. So there's So there's Gianni Infantino. And welcome back. So that's the end of the most recent court proceeding involving Gianni Infantino in Switzerland, and we would like to thank the extraordinary federal prosecutors. How do you put that on a business card? Do you just sit there and cite, it's like, I'm an extraordinary federal prosecutor? It's that job title just has to be amazing. But of course, in any situation like this, the difference between not guilty and innocent, that's always, or dismissed and innocent, always kind of seems to get lost in the sauce here. You're fully vindicated, therefore I'm innocent. Well, no, the case was just dropped. But once again, remember how we parse things here. Once again, as Hutch says, welcome, meet the new FIFA, same as the old FIFA. Morning, Ricky. We're talking about Gianni Infantino for a few minutes this morning because he decided to let everybody know how happy he was that the extraordinary federal prosecutors are doing the work there in Switzerland. So that is opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and at kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for hour number 1 as I block out the QR code for hour number 2. Once again, our friends from Kickoff Coffee, thanks to everyone who has kicked off their day with our friends at Kickoff Coffee. See what I did there? There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on the 280 character app on Twitch and on the YouTube channel. And use the code soccer down here 15. They in turn take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. I know. Yeah, so Ricky wishes we were previewing our first game, meaning Atlanta United, either tomorrow or Sunday. Thanks, MLS. Morning forecard. No, we can't have that. There will be other games that we will preview in hour number 2 after Neal Ruhl visits to discuss Detroit City. Longtime voice of Detroit City coming on to talk about Detroit City. But, we mentioned everything else that is going on, and there's one, we mentioned the stuff with Tonali, and we've been big on the Sandro Tonali case. And once again, when you have more than one writer writing on an article, you know that there's a lot that you've got to parse through. Morgan, Edwards, and McGrath at the Telegraph this morning. Newcastle are exploring the possibility of reducing Sandro Tonali's wages after he was handed a 10-month ban for gambling breaches, set to be ruled out until August, although there is an outside possibility he could be available this weekend, as FIFA is yet to widen the ban worldwide. So right now, the ban is just Italy and national team. Until and you've got to appreciate what Newcastle's doing here. To the letter of the law with the suspension, Italy and national team. Until Newcastle hears otherwise, Sandro Tonali could still possibly be active and be a part of a game day roster. You want to talk about the fine lines here and parsing what you can and can't do? Newcastle are still waiting for official confirmation of Tonali's ban, verbally announced by the Italian Football Federation, but not officially confirmed with UEFA or FIFA. Manager Eddie Howe said this morning there was a high chance Tonali would be involved against Wolves, as there were, quote, one or two things that still need to happen, end quote, before the ban starts. Internal club discussions have already begun with lawyers, however, over whether Tonali will remain one of the team's top earners while he's sidelined. Sources close to the club have played down reports in Italy that Newcastle could sue his former club for failing to declare Tonali's gambling issues. There will be billable hours, by the way. And we know one of the lawyers. But executives are keeping their options open over their next move, with the player's welfare being prioritized as he tackles addictions outlined by his agent. Eddie Howe has praised Tonali's response after a, quote, difficult couple of weeks. And gambling charities also said on Thursday Tonali deserves empathy and support. Lawyers acknowledged yesterday Newcastle face a complex task in deciding how to respond to the ban. Stephen Taylor Heath, co-head of sports law at JMW, said the starting point for the club's lawyers will be in scrutinizing the agreement between the two clubs during the deal this summer. Here's what Heath says. Currently, no public knowledge on the agreement in this particular case, but a transfer normally contains a basic structure which includes warranties from the selling club. Warranties could include representations that the selling team is not aware of the players subject to any investigations of a criminal or disciplinary nature at the time of the transaction. If Newcastle did believe they had a case and were to take any form of action, the transfer agreement may provide a jurisdiction and forum for the dispute to be determined. So once again, as we've said, forecard, correct. Darren's a hell of a lawyer. Hutch says he needs to play his way through these difficult times. But yes, Darren's a hell of a lawyer, Darren Neals. Waiting for FIFA and UEFA to expand the suspension through Europe, European competition, England, all these different jurisdictions. FIFA and UEFA have to actually officially sit there and put something on paper or put something out to the 280 character app and sit there and go, dude can't play here either. Until that happens, though, in theory, Newcastle could sit there and say, you know what, Sandro Tonali, you're still good. We still want you as a part of our roster. Morning, David. We still want you as a part of what's going on. Very, very. You're taking the literal application of the suspension. They've said something, but we ain't gotten anything in writing yet. We ain't got nothing in writing. So there you go. We ain't got nothing in writing. And until we get something in writing, or I guess on the 280 character app, then you're sitting there and it's like, no, we think he can still play. It's like the priest in Caddyshack with the rainstorm. I don't. Yeah, exactly. Four-card. It's not official until it's official. You're playing the round of your life. I think the heavy stuff isn't going to be here for a while. You keep playing. You just hope that Newcastle isn't like the Padre on 18 after he misses the putt for the course record and he holds the putter up in the air, gets struck by lightning. You hope that if you're a Newcastle fan, that moment doesn't happen on 18 for you when it comes to Sandro Tonali. But yeah, not official till it's official. It's been said, but we ain't got nothing in writing. So we will keep an eye on Newcastle and Sandro Tonali. Yeah, it makes you want to rub your chin just a bit. Manchester United, by the way, since we're in the Premier League, Manchester United has announced Premier League record annual revenue. We will get into that more on Prem and Proper. Drew Dickinson has cut his 3D, and we will get you ready for the weekend. Prem and Proper will be released early this afternoon when it comes to content. So we'll get you ready for the Premier League. And Kavi Solokal from Sky goes in depth in discussing the record annual revenue for Manchester United. And we will we'll go over that. That'll be in Prem and Proper. Like I said, that's early this afternoon on the SDH network. Continue let me know about your postseason awards. Postseason awards, since we still only have Thunderdome that have been played. Starting 11, MVP, newcomer, young player, best defender, best keeper, and the Goofy Awards that obviously have not been announced by them, but they've been announced by us. Keep that coming for this show, since we still have games coming up this weekend. So let me know about all of your awards. But I don't know if you've heard of this guy named Messi, but he came to Inter Miami, and they did okay until he got until he got injured and actually had to take some time off. The finalists have been announced on the awards, and that's why I wanted us to continue to have our thoughts as to who should be winning awards and these kinds of things. Here's your full list of nominees for the finalists in the awards for Major League Soccer. The Landon Donovan MLS MVP, Lucho Acosta, Thiago Almada, Denny Bouanga. Those three. Siggy Schmidt Coach of the Year, Bradley Carnell, Wilfred Nancy, Pat Noonan. No surprises there. Newcomer of the Year, Gigi, Edward Lewin, and some guy named Messi. So Messi gets Newcomer of the Year finalist nomination. Congratulations, sir. Young player, Thiago Almada, Duncan McGuire, Aiden Morris. Oh, that's a tough one. I know a lot of folks are going to sit there and look at Duncan McGuire and with what he's been able to do with the purple team. Thiago, though, obviously here being an Atlanta show, I know a lot of folks. I will guarantee. Why do I want to think that Messi's going to get Newcomer of the Year? I mean, you've got to have a reason to have him show up at an award ceremony, yeah? Gigi, Edward Lewin, Lionel Messi, Newcomer of the Year. And obviously these will be, announced, but you've got to have something. You've got to have something announced where Messi is celebrated. So this one makes sense. Young player, Thiago, Duncan McGuire, Aiden Morris. Keeper of the Year, Berkey, Celentano, and Gillespie. That's another tough one. because everybody's sitting there saying, why is St. Louis, why is all caps signing a keeper and making him a DP? Well, now we know why. Defender of the year, Yamar, Matt Miazga, Tim Parker. Wouldn't surprise me if Tim Parker got it. Tim Parker for me should be best 11, and I had him, I guess, as best defender of the year. Because if I'm announcing Tim Parker for my version of that award, and he's a finalist, I guess I have to keep up with that. Yeah, I have to make sure that I keep that in place. And then comeback player of the year, Joao Paulo, Alan Pulido, Miles Robinson. So MVP, Acosta Almada Buanga. Coach of the year, Carnell Nancy Noonan. Newcomer, Gigi Edward Lewin, Lionel Messi. Young player, Almada, Duncan McGuire, Aiden Morris. Keeper, Berkey Celentano and Gillespie. Defender, Yamar, Matt Miazga, Tim Parker. Comeback player of the year, Joao Paulo, Alan Pulido, Miles Robinson. So that's your finalists for the MLS awards. Knicks, I'm sure the ownership of Newcastle has nothing to do with this Tonali punishment delay as he's looking up for black helicopters, of course. David, kids' school does Sports Spirit Day every year before the cocktail party. Are we allowed? I guess we're allowed to call it the cocktail party. Whatever the world's largest outdoor whatever in Jacksonville. This morning, my kids wore United gear. Saw another United kit and one in an Arsenal kit. Granted, you drop kids off early, but it was 4-0 that football versus that football. Soccer jerseys early in the morning. Does Messi stats only count in MLS matches? Don't know. Or Leagues Cup 2. He'd have 2 points in 3 games. I know. Yeah, I know. Newcomer should be Gigi with the Golden Boot chase. But with everything, as Nix is looking up for black helicopters, I think I'll join him as we look for the squadron. Why does my gut tell me that he's going to win Newcomer of the Year? Why does my gut tell me that Lionel Messi is going to win Newcomer of the Year? That's just me. Atlanta United players up for 4 MLS awards. How many do they actually win? It might be just 1, Ricky. Yeah, I know you're hoping for 2 with probably Gigi and Almada, newcomer and young player. But no, I'm right there with you. I think it turns out to be Almada for the Young Player of the Year award. Yeah, newcomer, my gut tells me it's going to be Messi. Yes, I know about the numbers and everything and all the matches. Let me get the official breakdown of the votes, David, and who did what. The award finalists. All right. Below finalists in alphabetical order earn the highest average votes from the following groups: current MLS first team players, MLS clubs, meaning coaches, technical directors, or GMs, and select media members representing local and national outlets who consistently covered the 2023 MLS regular season. For the record, we did not get any of those. Audi Goals Drive Progress Impact Awards finalist Alejandro Bedoya Driver from Columbus, Darlington Nagby, and Taylor Washington from Nashville. Ref of the Year finalist John Freeman, Victor Rivas, Ted Uncle. AR of the Year, Michael Barwagon, Cam Blanchard, and Ian McKay. Your Ref of the Year finalists, John Freeman, Victor Rivas, and Ted Uncle. Yeah, no one here at SDH got a vote. I'm fairly certain and safe that Mike and Jason got votes. For this award, for newcomer, here's the verbiage for Newcomer of the Year. Defined as a player who had previous professional experience and made his MLS debut in 2023. That's broad. Why does my gut tell me that Messi's going to win the award? Why? Why? Yep. I'm staring at these and I'm going, mm-hmm, mm. Yep. All right. So we got the newcomer. Young player is in MLS 22 or younger during the calendar year eligible for consideration. Comeback player honors an MLS player who's overcome a severe injury and or adversity as a result missed a significant portion of 22, shown improvement performance to achieve success during 23. Might be Polito. That's my guess. So, yep. The official designations, first team players, MLS clubs, meaning coaches, technical directors, and GMs, and then select media members who cover local and national during the regular season. 13 different clubs represented. Atlanta, Cincinnati, and all caps are the most represented clubs with finalists in 4 award categories each. Understood. I mean, for all caps, that's fantastic for a season. It makes sense perfectly to get Carnell and Lewin and Berkey and Parker. Makes absolute sense for them. Absolutely, it does. But yes, the official 2023 year-end awards. They've been handed out, and duck your head as things continue to get closer to the handing out of awards. The Rapids have parted ways with Jack Price and Diego Rubio. Inter Miami signed Gregory to a contract extension. LaCava, Ulloa, and Joseph have been told that they are not going to be a part of the future plans for Inter Miami. So we'll keep an eye on that. Now that seasons are over for clubs, remember they have X amount of time after their season has completed to announce players not going to be involved in the future, that kind of stuff. So we'll keep an eye on all of these lists. And it was great to catch up with Nico Moreno yesterday to find out about Nico Ladero. Does a team take a flyer on Nico Ladero? I think they do. Unless he wants to go home specifically. But I think someone's going to take a flyer on Nico Ladero. And Hutch, you're not wrong about it being Messi League soccer. You're not wrong. You've got to – I will admit this. I'm fairly certain that there is product that is out there on Apple TV that might be worth watching, but all of the accounts that I have gotten from the documentary and all of the coverage is that basically it's just like it's just kind of puff pieces. It's very featurey and very fluffy. I don't know if we get to see the video of Lionel Messi going back into the Publix or not, where he wasn't bothered, except that you had the TV cameras all around him in there. I wonder what his favorite pub sub is at Publix. I wonder what sub Lionel Messi likes to get when he goes to Publix. I'm just asking. Abby, morning. She says, morning on a cloudy Friday, looking like a true fall day, but it's going to be 80. It's going to be 80 degrees. 80 degrees. It's going to be 80 degrees today. See now, Ricky, that'd be pretty epic. If Messi's favorite sub from Publix, his favorite pub sub, would be the Atlanta United Spicy, with all of the different elements, wouldn't be a surprise. And Abby says Jason and Mike said they would vote for Lucho Acosta for MVP. And that makes absolute sense considering what Lucho has meant to that roster. Makes absolute sense to vote for him. With what Cincinnati has been able to do this year, finishing first in the East and clinching with a handful of matches to go, makes absolute sense. It does. It's the other awards that looks that you go down the list of the awards. You go down the list of the awards and you sit there and it's like, there are some that it makes a lot of sense and you're voting easily and you're going, yep, that one makes sense. That one makes sense. That one makes sense. But then you get to the newcomer of the year, and how many of us are going to get the chance to roll our collective eyes if it is who we think it's going to be? black helicopter noises. How many of us are going to roll our eyes in that situation? How many of us are going to sit there and go, yep, that's what happens? Last night, I don't know if you watched it. USA and Colombia were at Rio Tinto. No, I know, Abby. Abby doesn't think that Messi was there long enough to qualify. He hardly played. Yeah, I know. But he is now a part of the league dynamic. So we'll see what happens. Last night, USA played Colombia. One of the two friendlies against Colombia in this window. Next one coming up in a couple of days. In front of just over 13,000 out at Rio Tinto. Goalless draw. Alex Morgan missed a PK, hit the post from the penalty spot in the first half. Sophia Smith hit the woodwork late. Colombia started well, then they faded. USA had 9 shots. Both teams managed just 2 shots on target. And I know that Alex Morgan was getting a lot of stick after the match for missing the PK. And Twyla Kilgore stood up for Alex Morgan in the post-game quotes. Your scoring, your ratings from our friends at Soccer America, and traditionally, as we always do this, Theodore Lloyd Hughes does it this time instead of Mike Woitala. It just seems to be something where they can vent, and it gives them a reason to come up with a low number. Alyssa Nair had a 5. Defenders, Emily Fox is 7. Alana Cook, Naomi Girma, Crystal Dunn had 6s. Emily Fox handled Linda Caicedo. This is Lloyd Hughes' words. Capably on the right side, nervy at times, but the Real Madrid forward's magic ultimately limited by the physicality of the defender. Girma, another very comfortable, near flawless night, removed at halftime. Nothing starry about Alana Cook, not a bad thing. Crystal Dunn pressed higher up, tried to get forward to help out the midfield. Emily Sonnet had a 4, lined up alongside Sullivan, more effective defensively. Andy Sullivan a 6, Lindsay Horan a 4. A lot of pressure on Horan, according to Lloyd Hughes. To connect the midfield and attack right now, simply not working. Hesitant on the ball. There were multiple occasions she did not play the right pass at the right speed, and the chance fizzled away. However, she did have one nice setup for Alex Morgan early on that was not taken. Forwards. Trinity Rodman was a 6. Alex Morgan gets a 3 from Lloyd Hughes. Lynn Williams also gets a 6. So here's Lloyd Hughes's explanation of the forwards. On another night, Trinity Rodman, Lynn Williams finished this match with at very least 1 assist and potentially even more goal involvements. Both wide forwards were very dangerous. With better performances around them, the scoreline looks very different. On the ball, Rodman continues to show off her box of tricks. The nutmeg on Caroline Arias in the first half. Oh, my God. That's not written copy. That was me. Nutmeg on Carolina Arias in the first half. One of the highlights of the match, and the cross that followed was hit into the perfect area. Off the ball, Williams is consistently one of the USA's biggest weapons as a high-pressing forward. All night, she unsettled Colombia's back line. The Gotham forward was vital when it came to breaking the South Americans' passing rhythm. Also had a sensational line-breaking pass in the second half that almost set up Ashley Hatch for a score. Williams even won the penalty kick by being a nuisance on the goal line. It's undisputed that Alex Morgan is one of the greatest ever to put on a USA shirt, but her current run of form is deeply concerning. Okay, so Lloyd Hughes is in that camp. Another missed spot kick tonight means she hasn't scored for her country since February. Another good chance in the box went straight into Colombia keeper Natalia Giraldo's hands, failed to make the right runs for the service of her wide teammates. Lloyd Hughes gave Alex Morgan a 3. That's bloody harsh for a friendly coming out of the opening round of the playoffs while you're waiting for an opponent. That's bloody harsh, giving Alex Morgan a 3 for the first of 2 friendlies against Colombia. Sauerbrunn got a 6, one of the highlights. Debut of Jaden Shaw. Sauerbrunn gets a 6. Kruger gets a 5. DeMello a 5. Hatch a 6. Sophia Smith a 6. Jaden Shaw, just because of the number of minutes, just basically got it incomplete. Colombia becomes the second South American team to shut out the U.S. Brazil managed it 4 times in 38 meetings. 4-0 at the 07 World Cup, 1-0 in a 97 friendly in Sao Paulo, and in scoreless friendlies in 2000 in Massachusetts and 2014 in Brasilia. Colombia's ties with the U.S. was at second after a 2-2 result at the 2016 Olympics ended their 5-game losing streak against the USA. Tuesday's tie ended a 4-game losing streak. 18-year-old Jaden Shaw made her senior debut for the WNT. Teenager's been a mainstay on the YNT ranks. Already has 2 NWSL seasons under her belt. Sunday at Snapdragon at 5:30 is the second match of the 2. Stats on the night. Shots 9-3 for the U.S. Both had 2 on target, 2 saves each. 9 corners for the United States compared to 1 for Colombia. 11 fouls for Colombia compared to 9 for the U.S. 1 offside, possession 53-47. So we'll keep an eye on that. And when Bart comes in on Wednesday of next week, after he has recovered from State and Southern last night down in Statesboro, big win for Georgia Southern, by the way. We'll ask him about these 2 matches here in this window and what to take from them. And, yeah, I am going to get into the Alex Morgan, everybody dropping hammers, all that kind of stuff. Abby, disappointed in the U.S. not scoring. Maybe time for Alex Morgan to sit out a little bit, although I know some were on limited minutes due to playoffs. Haran was all over the place, but her passing wasn't great. Colombia was like a swarm, aggressive on the player with the ball. Morgan just had an off night, should have taken her out at the half. So that's what Abby watched that last night. So that's what Abby's thinking. So goalless draw, USA and Colombia, and they'll do it again this weekend at Snapdragon. We'll see how many people show up there at Snapdragon as they await the NWSL semifinals, which happen next weekend. So that's why the gap in the NWSL playoffs was for this weekend, because of the international window. Neal Ruhl from Detroit City coming up in about 20 minutes. Weekend whip around after that in hour number 2. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and things left unsaid. Saudi Pro League officials. I know this will shock you. Saudi Pro League officials have sounded out Kevin De Bruyne about a move to the Middle East in 24. Newcastle targeting a move for Al Hilal's Ruben Neves after Tonali was given the 10-month ban. Once again, though, this is from the 3-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Newcastle exploring the possibility of reducing his wages. We talked about that. Newcastle also considering Manchester United Scott McTominay and Manchester City's Calvin Phillips. That's from our friends at 90 Minutes. Chelsea have shown an interest. Who haven't they shown an interest in? Before we talk about the particular player, who haven't they shown an interest in? But in this case, Chelsea have shown an interest in signing Gavi, who Barcelona may have to sell for $87 million. So, all right. So Barca may have to sell Gavi for £87 million, according to Sport, to ease their financial troubles. To ease their financial troubles. So a team that is more than happy to spend $11 billion on players and still have 98,000 players on their roster, that they loan 97,000 of them out, wants all the toys. Literally, that is the only way that I can describe this, is that Bully Clear Lake want all the toys. We've bought Chelsea for billions of dollars, and we just want all the toys. So now they've shown an interest in signing the 19-year-old Spanish midfielder Gavi, knowing that Barcelona is going to have to get rid of him for only £87 million. Literally, we may as well just put up a list on a wall that shows everybody short of Ronaldinho, the original Ronaldo, and anybody else who might be in their mid-30s, early 40s, hell, maybe even CR38. Chelsea may just want to just go ahead and put them all on a damn list. We want all these folks. We're going to spend all the damn money. We're going to bring in all these damn folks, and we're just going to do this. And we thought that when Roman Abramovich was owner, they spent money. It's just, it does not surprise. It does not surprise a bit. A loan move to Saudi Arabia looks the likeliest escape route for Jadon Sancho, although Chelsea could be an option with Borussia Dortmund not interested now, according to our friends at The Athletic. Crystal Palace confident that Eze will sign a new long-term contract despite interest from Manchester City. Once again, we always mention this. What do we say about signing long-term deals? You're controlling the asset. If you keep the player for the length of the deal, good on you. But if you sign Eberechi Eze to a massive deal, what you're doing is you're also committing the team that is interested and will pay behind you to match that salary figure, if not exceed it. Release clause, contract. But if you sign Eze, if Steve Parrish and Crystal Palace get Eze to sign on the line which is dotted and get him to sign to a massive amount of money, the big boys still are not going to blink about the whole thing. They won't. If they're interested in Eberechi Eze, they will sign. They will hit the release clause, and they'll sign him to a figure. So if Steve Parrish wants to look out for the coffers at Crystal Palace, sign Eze to a bigger deal, knowing full well that he's not going to be there for the length of the full deal. Do that. Arsenal have prioritized signing Real Madrid's Aurelien Tchouameni next summer as they look for a midfielder to play alongside Declan Rice. They've also identified Real Sociedad's Martin Zubimendi as a target. Zubimendi is interested in Manchester United, too. Liverpool are favorites to sign Portugal's center back Gonçalo Inácio from Sporting Lisbon. Fulham defender Tosin Adarabioyo is ready to discuss a new long-term deal after seeing Marco Silva get a new deal. Monaco had a bid for him last year, rejected last summer. Spurs are also interested. Newcastle, the latest Premier League club to consider a move for Federico Di Marco, with the 25-year-old defender also gaining interest from Chelsea, shock, and Manchester United. It would take a bid of at least £80 million for Manchester City to consider selling Julian Alvarez. I know that we've been talking about Julian Alvarez for years. To have Julian Alvarez be a part of the discussion with Erling Haaland up top, $80 million for Julian Alvarez, considering what they picked him up for. West Ham and Brentford are targeting Serhou Guirassy. He's going to be available for about £15 million in January because of a release clause in his contract with Stuttgart. If I'm Brentford, I'd jump on it. Jump on it now. Be the first one in line. Sheffield United could sack Paul Heckingbottom if they lose to Arsenal on Saturday. So basically what the four-letter paper is saying is that Sheffield United, once they lose, is going to sack Paul Heckingbottom. Paving the way for Chris Wilder to come back. Wilder was at Watford before he got sacked there last year. Everybody that goes to Watford gets sacked. What was it, 30 managers in the last 10 years? So Paul Heckingbottom, no surprise, could be the first one to go. And they'll bring back Chris Wilder because they could probably afford Chris Wilder more than anything else. Because you can't bring in a big name. And Sheffield United isn't going to be spending a boatload of money on talent or manager or players or anything this season. They're not going to make the big splash. They are going to try and do things on a budget, which means that once they sack Paul Heckingbottom, they can't bring in Jose Mourinho as an example. Not that they could bring in Jose Mourinho. Yesterday, we talked about how he's being relinked to the Premier League after this season. But Chris Wilder, somebody you can afford. Loved by the folks who are supporters of the club. So we'll see. But yeah, Paul Heckingbottom, if they lose to Arsenal on Saturday, they would be in massive, massive trouble. But we have mentioned here in all of our conversations that Heckingbottom would be one of the first ones to go. Sheffield United would be one of the first, teams that you would think of when it comes to being relegated. Sheffield United, Luton Town in a third is, I think, what we were looking at before the season started. Right now, they haven't won a match. They've only scored 7 goals in their first 9 games. They've given up 24. It's not even close. Bournemouth, they at least have 3 draws on the season. They're supposedly patient with Iraola after sacking Gary O'Neal, who kept them afloat last year. Could Bournemouth be the third? Burnley could be the third. They've only won once in their first 9. But, yeah, Sheffield United, they look like they might be the first one through the trap door, and Paul Heckingbottom might be the first manager through the trap door. Hutch, MLS awards need a creative financing for player salaries category. But the question, Hutch, I have for you is, does it count if the team gets caught being creative financially, or do they have to succeed at being creative financially? Once again, give me your awards for the rest of the show. For those of you that haven't done it this week, give me your best 11. Give me your MVP. Give me your best defender. Give me your best keeper, young player, and newcomer. And give me an award that, like Hutch, creative financing for player salaries category. And give me an award that isn't currently in the grid, and who you would have. We'll talk about that like 10:15, 10:20, and we'll go finish up the rest of the show with it. So you got to write them out. Write them out for the next little bit, and put your thinking cap on. So, yes, all of the awards, and give me an award, all the MLS awards we were talking about, and give me an award off the table that is not currently awarded. MVP, Coach of the Year, newcomer, young player, keeper, defender, and an award that doesn't exist. That's your assignment. Hutch was saying, I was just thinking, just with what we see with Messi, it would be enough, but why not legal and hell to the no? That's not legal categories. Okay. So give me your nominees in these categories. So yeah, that's the thing. If you're going to create a category, give me the nominees. That's what we're looking at. So once again, put your thinking cap on. We'll talk about them after Neal Ruhl joins us at the top of the hour, talking Detroit City and how an 8 knocked off a 1, and bit of an education on Le Rouge as they are in the upper right-hand corner. And you have the chaos of the 5 and an 8 and the 3 and a 7 on the right-hand side in the Eastern Conference and USL Championship. So we'll have Neal on coming up in a little less than 10 minutes. And we'll talk Le Rouge and everything else. Mali midfielder Abdoulaye Doucouré set to sign a new contract at Everton until 2025 with an option until 26. That comes from our friend Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea, shock, closely following the progress of Lille's 17-year-old French center back Lenny Yoro. And Mauricio Pochettino is going to have any and all say on Chelsea transfers going forward. But he's in trouble. He's in trouble, by the way. I don't know if you heard this, but he has revealed that the Christmas Eve clash with Wolves will see him miss his anniversary with his wife. Scheduled to travel to the Molineux on Christmas Eve day for the first fixture of their kind in 28 years. Fans are pissed. Transport logistical problems of the festive period. Fans are really pissed. Pochettino, his anniversary is on the 23rd. He says, the fans are not happy, me either. I'm unhappy also because December 23 is my anniversary with my wife and I need to travel to Wolves. I'm not going to spend the night of the 23rd in my house, and the 24th December for an Argentine, it's a really important night. I hope to arrive on time to celebrate, but yes, our fans are not happy. I'm not happy also. When questioned at Talk Sport if Chelsea will potentially try to get the date of the game changed, he admitted it's difficult. I think it's not easy to change, but we need to accept we are in England and it's different to the rest of the world. But I need to adapt myself Even if I'm not happy, I need to do my best to try to be on our best level, and of course, to accept that the situation you cannot change. He was then asked if he told his wife yet that he wasn't going to be home for his anniversary. And he replied, he says, I believe I'm not going to convince her to come. It's going to be my 31st anniversary. So you've got the boss to answer to. Mauricio Pochettino, for his 31st wedding anniversary, is having to spend it away from home, and he's having to spend it getting ready for a match in the Premier League. And he's missing his anniversary. He is not happy. Burnley owners AOK Capital are also in talks with Dundee over proposals to make the Scottish Premiership side a feeder club. And that's also in the four-letter paper. So we'll keep an eye on that when it comes to Burnley and AOK and trying to widen their berth and widen all of their thought pattern as to who they can have as a part of their club, as a part of their club umbrella and their club ladder. So AOK Capital, who is trying to do things once again also on a budget. We'll see if they're going to be adding clubs as a part of their feeder program. So we'll see. Does Dundee become a part of Burnley? Does it work, backwards, forwards, upside down, and sideways when it comes to feeder programs and such? And we'll see what happens there. Neal Ruhl coming up around the corner. So what I'll do now is try and adjust the audio on our music, because I don't want to blow you out, so you can actually hear what it is I'm talking about. And we'll hit this and we'll read a promo, provided it wants to trigger, and we'll have music to discuss. I don't know. Wow. It's thinking about it. Wow. It took a while. It takes a while for that to wake up sometimes, too. Getting ready for hour number 2. We always talk about our friends from the Lemonize service. Rotor-free, clean, fresh air. One place you need to go. QR code. Slightly shiny. Rotor-free, clean, fresh air. One place you need to go. It's the Lemonize service. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on the Bird app, 280-character app on Twitch and on the SDH YouTube channel. Deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. The Lemonize service has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors, help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Lemonize different than Febreze or other masking agents that you may have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard and you grab that masking agent out, there's a reason they call it a masking agent. Because you spray it in the air, you're just masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem like our friends from the Lemonize service do with their proven scientific formula. Destroying odor down to the molecule, pricing very, very easy. One of two ways. Either by the cubic foot or parts per million to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's their website. And it is lemonize.com, but this is where I grab my pen, or a pen, but this lemonize.com, and then go /Atlanta after the .com so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them, so they can help you with your issues. Trying not to end the sentence in the preposition. Full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, Lemonize.com /Atlanta. Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. So you can try the slow fade, which we know does not exist, but hope always springs eternal when you try and fade the music down. 10 o'clock here on the East Coast, and this one I've been kind of chasing for a while in my brain, and I finally had the courage and fortitude to pull this off. to discuss USL Championship, I wanted to go to Detroit and bring in our friend Neal Ruhl for the first time ever in the history of the program. Neal visits wearing the LaRouge gear. Longtime voice of Detroit City. Neal, thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me, man. I certainly do appreciate it. Ready to go this weekend.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and in honor of your LaRouge, I will see your LaRouge and I will raise you a Detroit Express T-shirt this morning.
I have that shirt in the repertoire as well. The old NASL days. It's funny because Roger Faulkner, who was one of the owners of the Detroit Express back in the day, he and I have become pretty good friends through my time at Detroit City FC. So I had the chance to have a couple of drinks with him, and we kind of chop it up about those days. It's really cool to talk to him about that.
Is there a story that you can divulge? If you're chopping it up, is there a story that can be divulged, or is it all kind of secret?
Yeah, the stuff that we talk about, I don't know if they necessarily would want that out there. I mean, well, whatever, here I got a good one for you. So he talked about the time when they were pitching the World Cup, because some people don't know, in 1994 when the USA hosted the World Cup, they had some matches in the Pontiac Silverdome, and it was newsworthy because they played on grass, but they played indoors. And he told me about the time when they pitched it to U.S. Soccer about having it there. They made sure, like when they did the walkthrough, because Silverdome didn't have air conditioning back then. So when they did the pitch to them, they did the walkthrough. They brought them out, in the springtime, not in the summertime, so they could kind of pull the fast one on them. Because when they had the games at the Silverdome, it was like 100 degrees inside the Silverdome. So they kind of slid one by right there, but it was pretty cool to talk to them about that kind of stuff.
Reason that I brought you in is that on Thursdays during the USL Championship season, we have our friends from the USL show over in Birmingham, and we bring them on and we talk about what's going on in USL Championship. When an 8 seed knocks off a 1, that sends out my spidey senses, and I want to send out flares and go in as many directions as humanly possible, and that's why I reached out. Is there any truth to the rumor that Bob Lilly is still yelling at Pittsburgh Riverhounds players, and he has not left Highmark Stadium and has not allowed them to leave ever since an 8 seed knocked off a 1 last weekend?
I doubt that's the case. Bob Lilly's one of the very, very good coaches in this league. It's funny you talk about that. Bob Lilly actually had a stopover in Detroit during his coaching career. He coached the Detroit Ignition in the Arena Soccer League, and had a very, very good run there. No, Bob Lilly's a great coach, man. And what was interesting to me is, for those that watched that match, Detroit City FC pulled off the classic blueprint for how an 8 seed goes into a 1 seed and wins. And, in that match, it was interesting to me because you could see the frustration growing with Pittsburgh. And I sent out a tweet after the match that I kind of gave my thoughts on the match. And I said, Detroit was the better side. Detroit City was the better side in that match. And they frustrated them. And you could see that frustration taking over. And look, that's not uncommon, especially in the playoffs. But that's the whipsaw of when you have everything locked up and you've got the best record, you have the home pitch advantage and all that kind of stuff. That can be a detriment, man. The longer that game goes, where you don't have a goal, the screws tighten and the pressure cooker turns up. And Detroit City FC was able to turn that pressure cooker up, and Pittsburgh succumbed to it a little bit. And you saw, I don't want to call it desperation, because Bob Lilly has forgotten more about soccer this morning than I'll know in my life. And, you could see almost an air of desperation, even in the 60th minute, which is kind of wild because, coaches usually tell me, once your antenna goes up about the 70th minute, and then in the 80th minute, that's when things become real. But I think Detroit City FC, while they might not have gotten a lot of credit for that, they deserve a lot of the credit for it because they're the one that flipped that script on Pittsburgh. And that was the classic blueprint for how an 8 seed beats a 1 seed.
And I know that the folks here in the Southeast, from their time in USL Championship before folks go and transfer over to MLS Next Pro, got to watch Detroit City and how stylistically what Trevor James can do in a match-by-match situation to find those advantages, take advantage of those situations. And even if it is that emotional ramping up of the pressure from the other guy and making things tight where you're kind of playing with house money as an 8, it was that element of you could almost see the gears turning faster and faster and faster for Pittsburgh, and the smoke is coming out of their ears and nothing is being successful, and it amplifies and it amplifies and it amplifies. When you got a guy between the sticks like Nate Steinwasser, who I think is one of the more underappreciated keepers in USL Championship, that's another element of all of this.
No, he is he may be the most underappreciated player, because when you talk about what Nate Steinwasser's been able to do for this club, and we had our media availability with Trevor James on yesterday before we get ready to ramp things up for the broadcast of the match here in Detroit on TV 20. But we have talked about that in the past with Nate Steinwasser, and look, like he doesn't fit the profile, right? Because he's not 6'2", he's not an athletic freak, and people see that and they're very dismissive of Nate Steinwasser. But I deal in facts. Like that's maybe to a fault sometimes, but I deal in facts, and the facts are this: his resume is as good as any 6'2" or any real athletic keeper, any keeper, period, in this league. His resume is as good as any. And you look at Detroit City FC. Maybe they don't have the depth of high level players, maybe just in terms of professionals, right? Where guys that have been around the block. And when you call these matches, you look, and Louisville's one of these teams, guys, 200 USL matches, guys that spent 3 seasons in the MLS. Detroit City has a few of those guys. Don't get me wrong, but Nate Steinwasser has been the equalizer. And from the second he stepped on the turf at Keyworth, and the second he's put on that LaRouge jersey, he's produced at as high a level as anybody, whatever level they've been in. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why he doesn't get the credit. I know Nate doesn't care. I've gotten the good fortune to know Nate personally a little bit. He just goes on about his life. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter to him. But I find it fascinating, man, in today's day and age where everybody runs to stats, because he's got the stats. It's weird with Nate, because when people don't talk about him, they say, well, he doesn't look the part, and they ignore the stats. The Red tied for second in clean sheets, tied for fourth in USL in saves. He's as good as anybody, man. And that's always been something that's kind of low key bothered me a little bit. Like with the media people that cover this league, they've been very dismissive of what he does. And whatever I can do to shine a light on that, I'm going to do, because he's brilliant. He's magnificent, and he's one of the best there is in this league. Period. Hard stop.
As a hockey guy, Nate reminds me of a Dominik Hasek type goalie transferred over to soccer. You look at things stylistically, and you can't quite pin him down into, okay, well, he's butterfly, or he's going to make sure that he's as large a target as possible. He'll look at angles. He knows how to do things. You can't pin him down stylistically. He doesn't look like your average normal keeper. And yes, I did use air quotes for those people who are just listening. And it's just, you can't pin him down. But by the end of the day, you mention all of these stats, and you can be as unconventional as you want. I mean, look, if you're playing golf and you get up to the 18th tee, and your backswing looks like Jim Furyk, and you could have a sandwich and you could be at the back of it, but the bottom line is, at the end of the day, on your follow-through, you hit it 280 to 320. The backswing doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter how you look. It shouldn't matter how you attack angles. The bottom line is, Nate, to me, has been one of the most underappreciated, like we've been talking about, talents that the league has seen in quite some time.
No, it is. And the moral of the story is this: when you're a club and you play against Detroit City FC, chances are you're not going to score that day. And there's reasons for it. Nate would tell you that the guys in front of him, certainly are a big reason for that as well. But I've seen him make so many high-level saves, not in technique or anything like that, just very high-leverage shots, I guess, if you want to use an analytic term, the high conversion percentage shots that he turns away. And I see it repeatedly. And I'll tell you this too, John, like, it's to the point where you sit there and watch, you almost expect it now. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's just one of those things where when you see it with him, you borderline expect it now. You're almost stunned when he doesn't stop somebody right on the 6 line with the whole net to shoot at. You're like, man, what happened there, Nate? That's what you're thinking. But that's how good he's been. That's how good he is.
Now you're looking at not the 4, but the 5, and just the craziness of the Eastern Conference in general. It's an 8, it's a 5, it's a 3, and it's a 7. Next trip for Detroit City is Lou City. It's not to Memphis. They go PKs. Aiden McFadden hits the post, and now you're a part of a 5 and an 8. What has study hall been like for you getting ready for this one?
I mean, it hasn't. I'll be honest with you. It hasn't been a lot because there's such a great history between Detroit City and Lou City, and this is a rivalry. Make no mistake about it. Because look, what makes a great rivalry when you play for stakes, right? They played in the U.S. Open Cup, and they played all these great matches throughout time. You know, it's a short time, obviously, but they played each other a ton over the last 2 years. And the players don't really change for Lou City. They have, as I talked about earlier, they got pros. I mean, they got guys that, you know, if you want to break it down, I bet would have every opportunity. And, you know, from things that I've heard from people I've talked to across the league, they have players that could be playing in MLS that chose to go to Lou City instead. So, I mean, those are the type of players that they have, the level of players that they have. And that is what I love about this, like Detroit City FC and Lou City and this matchup and everything like that. The cities, the fan bases do not like each other. That's documented if you spend any time in the social media sphere. That is documented on both sides. You know, I know the Northern Guard gets a bad rap for some reason because of the passion that they have for their club. I can tell you that the Lou City fan base is every bit that as well. And I've dealt with it personally. I've seen it across all the forums and all that kind of stuff. So, but this is what I like. This is why I love doing this job, because there isn't a lot to quote unquote prepare for. And yes, for those listening, I did use air quotes right there because John said it was okay. But you know, it is. I love this because there's no secrets. Like, they're going to kick this ball off tomorrow night, man. And we've seen it all. We've seen the players. We know what they're going to do, and it's going to be a battle of will.
When you look at what, I guess this is the philosophical question here. Neal Ruhl hanging out with us, play-by-play for Detroit City, getting ready for a 5 and an 8 in the Eastern Conference and USL Championship. What's it been like for you personally to see where Detroit City was as a franchise and has worked their way up the ladder, and they're in USL Championship, making playoff runs, and with everything that everyone's done there to make Keyworth what it is and have it be this great beacon of local involvement? What's it been like for you to see Detroit City take all of these different steps to get where they are today?
No, I enjoy it. Number one, and look, I'll be real with it too. Detroit City FC, just the visibility of the club, the passion of the fan base, I've benefited a lot from it. You know, I've been able to call matches at soccer at the highest levels, and that's because, you know, the exposure I've gotten from Detroit City FC, and that's because their fans watch. You know, one of the highest rated clubs in all of USL, like when you look at television ratings and all those kinds of things. I mean, they're passionate about it, and I've enjoyed it too because, look, I'm a sports fan, John. Like, I'm like you, I'm like everybody else, man. I love sports. Like, that's why I do what I do for a living. And Detroit City FC is everything that you say you want in a sports in a sports team that you root for. They're everything that you say. The growth is organic. There's nothing plastic about the franchise. It's not corporate by any means. Spend some time with the ownership here. You know, it's not corporate by any means. You know, they just look at what they did with Keyworth Stadium, in that, you know, they kind of crowdfunded the renovations, the money for the renovations to do it. They paid everybody back with interest through beer sales and alcohol sales at the stadium. And then they're going to, you know, it's in Hamtramck when their time comes, you know, whenever that day comes where they maybe build a new stadium or move on to the league that they're going to move on to, or relocate or anything like that. They just hand the stadium back over renovated to Hamtramck Public Schools. That's what you want as a sports fan. You go to the match, you know, as a fan, the season tickets, very, very affordable. They're not looking to jack you at the concession stand, or they're not trying to squeeze every dime out of you. You know, it's one of those things where this is what you say you want. And to be honest with you, you know, calling the matches here on television in Detroit, there's been times where it's gotten more engagement than the professional sports teams in this town, which is, the four major, I guess, professional sports teams in this town. And, it's been incredible to see that growth and to be a part of it and everything like that. And, I get to see it and everything like that, but I've benefited a lot from it personally. I've never really talked about that a lot, but, and without Detroit City FC and without that fan base, those kinds of things would never happen to me. So, it's one of those things where it's everything you say you want as a sports fan. And it's been incredible. The stadium's filled every single night, sellouts all the time. And you walk around town here and, the Le Rouge and the Detroit City FC crest has become a very prevalent fixture. Just, you go to the grocery store, you're going to run into somebody wearing a Detroit City FC shirt, just as you will, Pistons, Lions, Red Wings, Tigers. It's become a part of the fabric of Detroit sports.
When you mentioned fabric, obviously I can't escape our conversation without talking about Trevor James and what he has meant to the fabric of Detroit City. He's going upstairs after this season. What has he meant? And I don't think it can be understated, the levels, but what has he meant to the growth of the franchise as you've gone?
Well, I mean, the bottom line is this is a bottom line business. This is professional sports. We're talking about winning. Winning matters, and winning is what dictates. Like, these are all cool stories we're talking about right now, but if you don't win, that's not sustainable. And he's won. And I saw the stat, like his all-time record here at Detroit City FC, 80% of the time when Trevor James manages your team, you get a result. You get a win or a draw. 80%, 8 out of 10 for the math challenge like me. That's incredible. That is unbelievable. And, it does. It just goes to show you, too, like when you look at what Trevor's done here with this club, and stylistically, here's another reason why it works. And I always walk away sometimes from Keyworth if Detroit City FC gets a 1-0 win or, however it shakes out. Stylistically, what he's done is it's not just like they park the bus in front of the net and things like that. Like he uses the wings, and there's a stylistically appealing way that Detroit City FC plays soccer. Sure, they defend. Absolutely, they defend. But they're able to spark attack through that. And it's a pretty unique system, and it's something where you're seeing this more and more, and I've seen this kind of turn with soccer. And soccer's no different than any other of the professional sports around. It's kind of become a matchups-driven game where you would find your best matchup and you try to exploit it. And Trevor James has done that with the wing play. Reese Williams is kind of an unsung guy for Detroit City FC because when you play the wing spot in Trevor James' system, he's asking more of you. Right or wrong, that's the way it is because you key the attack and you're the key component in the defense as well. And I'll watch Reese Williams sprint 80 yards up and then 80 yards back, and it's a high work rate position. And when you're done, Maxi Rodriguez in the midfield is another guy. When you're done, you've ran 10, 11 miles in this setup. So it's something unique what he's done, not only from a results driven perspective, but as I said, it's stylistically appealing too.
All right, 2 more questions, and thanks for hanging out with us. First question, cut the promo for me for the broadcast plans for the street fight that's going to be Lou City and Detroit City.
No, there's no secrets. Nobody's coming out fighting southpaw or looking to switch anything on you. And this is what it is. You like sports, you like rivalries. I don't care if you're a soccer fan. If you like rivalries that play each other for the highest stakes, and this is pretty much the highest stakes in the game right now, you're tuning into this because it's going to be intense, and it's going to be intense for 90 minutes and more, maybe more. Who knows how it's going to go down? But I got nothing to sell. There's no sales tricks needed for this one. This is 2 teams that don't like each other, 2 fan bases that don't like each other, playing for the highest stakes. 90 minutes, someone goes on and someone goes home. What more do you want, man? I don't have to sell that to you.
Mm-hmm. So it is a window for an 8 seed that can be handled to get into the Eastern Conference Finals in the USL Championship. And my last question, how's Oakland going to be in the Horizon League this year?
In terms of basketball or soccer?
Basketball. Hey, basketball. I want to talk hoops as much as soccer. You can talk soccer. Hit soccer for me, too.
Yeah, well, Oakland, they're at the top of the table right now in the Horizon League, and they're closing in, on the soccer side, the men's soccer side, they're closing in on another Horizon League championship with Coach Eric Pogue. But in basketball, it won't be a vintage Greg Campy team. They got some questions at the point guard spot. Jalen Moore, the longtime record-setting point guard, has left. He's playing professionally overseas now. So it's one of those transition years at the point guard. They'll get it figured out, though. They have the resume. You know that at the end of the day, they'll get it figured out. Greg Campy's as good as it gets.
Neal Ruhl, play-by-play voice for Detroit City and everything with our friends with the Golden Grizzlies at Oakland as well. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for making your debut here on SDH and breaking down how an 8 seed took out a 1 and how you probably can take out a 5 the way that you've been doing things. I want to see this charge. I want an 8 to go as far as humanly possible because it's an 8.
No, and John, look, man, real quick before we get moving on here, yeah. I've always laughed at that. That the 8 seed, the 1 seed thing. You play the season, you get the number next to your name, and that's it. Especially in soccer, and you reference hockey as well. There is a formula for those teams to win. And in Detroit City FC, they executed it to a T in Pittsburgh, and we'll see if they can do it again in Louisville tomorrow night.
And when you got a hot keeper, that means you got a hot goalie, man. You just ask the Kings about Jonathan Quick. If you get a hot goalie, and you can charge through. Be safe. May everything reach its slot. May the producers give you extra time to talk about everything that you need to talk about. Have a hell of a show and go get them.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time.
All right, Neal Ruhl. Neal has survived his debut here on SDH. It's been fun. Yeah, let the 8 win the title. Absolutely, Abby. Absolutely. So once again, thanks to Neal for putting up with our silliness. And it was good that we were able to reach out and catch up with Neal and get the lowdown of an 8, and just how crazy it is on the eastern side in the USL Championship. An 8 plays a 5, a 7 plays a 3. That's how crazy it is right now. I mean, when you have Birmingham going to Charleston, you've got Detroit City going to Lou City for a street fight because they don't like each other. I mean, they're bringing the brass knuckles. They're wearing the blue jeans. They're wearing the steel-toed boots. That's going to be a fun one this weekend. And so keep it. If you're not watching anything else and you want something on in the room, watch Detroit City and Lou City in USL Championship on ESPN Plus, because it's going to be a street fight. It's going to for the neutral. It should be fun. For guys like Neal's going to be calling this thing, and Neal's probably going to sweat through his golf shirt and whatever other apparel is going to be there, and it's going to be. They're probably Neal in the broadcast booth is probably going to lose 5 pounds from all the energy expended. So, Detroit City and Lou City, the 5 and the 8 in the Eastern Conference. Like I said, there's a window there for the 8. There's a window there for Detroit City. You got a hot keeper in a playoff. We all know about that. Nate Steinwasser is one of the most underappreciated goalies in USL Championship. And he can help Trevor James carry Detroit City to the conference final if they beat Louisville to go up against the winner of Birmingham and Charleston on the weekend. Not as much chaos in the West where it's 1, 2, 3, and 6. 1, 4, 3, and 6. You've got San Antonio goes to Sacramento. That's crazy in and of itself. And then you have Phoenix, who made it through in the 3-6, and they are taking on the 2 seed in the West, in Orange County. So not as much chaos in the West, complete and total chaos in the East. Neal's a part of it. And at Neal Ruhl, RUHL, NEALRUHL. Follow Neal on the Twitters, and he'll let you know everything that's going on involving Detroit City. Abby, when we were talking about Mauricio Pochettino getting into trouble, just had my 31st wedding anniversary on Wednesday. Abby, the boss and I are chasing you. When you're married that long and you have a job that may interfere in life celebrations, you just celebrate another night. I have a husband who travels for work and deals with breaking news in the world, and work interferes sometimes. Celebrate when you can, even if it's not on the exact day. And go Strikers. Sharif, The Iron Will Forbearant Tactician Award for a club with a comeback performance in regular season, trailing 2 or more goals and at least earn a tie. If it happens, it gets awarded. And if multiple teams do this, then the higher total number of games that were reversed to win the award, followed by reverse deficit as a tiebreaker. Man. Iron Will Forbearant Tactician Award. What kind of an award do you hand out in this case? What kind of an award do you hand out? Let's see. So if it's a comeback performance, multiple teams, we got to. What physically would you give? What kind of an award would you physically give in this case? We got to think about that too. Yes, and Abby, let the 8 win the title. I'm all for it. Let the 8 win the title. It's all good. But no, it's good to have Neal on to kind of break things down in the 5-8 as things are in USL Championship. Since we are in the USL Championship part of things and we are breaking down what's going on, they are in conference semis. Tonight, you actually do have Friday night football. Sacramento favored at home on the plus side, but this one you want to talk about a nasty matchup on a Friday night when you're not watching high school football. Football Fridays in Georgia, 7:35 kick with Peachtree Ridge and Norcross, GPB TV, GPB.org, the GPB Sports app, all your social medias. 10:30 when ours is over and the replay is getting ready. Sacramento hosting San Antonio. Both teams on the plus side. Sacramento in the juice box is a plus 125. San Antonio is a plus 199. Tomorrow, the other 3 matches, 7 o'clock, Charleston and Birmingham. Charleston's a minus 110. You really don't know what team you're going to get in Charleston. You really don't. Minus 110 for the Battery. Birmingham is a plus 250. Your 90-minute draw is a plus 267. 7:30 in the street fight. Lou City obviously favored at a minus 156 because they're an 8-seed Detroit City. Give me the plus 275. 90-minute draw. Give me the plus 275 there. Detroit City's a plus 378. So give me the 90-minute draw. That one's going to go for a while. It's going to be a 1-0. It's going to take a while. They're going to hate each other. There's probably going to be a red. Orange County hosting Phoenix Rising in Irvine at 10 o'clock. Orange County's a plus 102. Phoenix scoring the daylights out of things. Rocco Rios Novo in net. Orange County's a plus 102. Phoenix is a plus 229. Your draw's a plus 249. We are in the semifinals of USL League One now that we're talking about it. And it is Union Omaha, and this is tomorrow, Saturday. 5:30 at Warner Park in Papillon, Nebraska, the Murder Owls of Union Omaha. Lagos Kunga is actually doing well in his cup of coffee. He started with the Des Moines Menace in USL League Two. Once their run in USL League Two was over, goes to Union Omaha, and Union Omaha has continued their run into the semifinals where they've reseeded. So it is 1, 4, 2, and 3. Union Omaha is a minus 156 at home against Charlotte Independent. Charlotte Independent's a plus 334, and your draw is a plus 309. The late game tomorrow at 7:30, North Carolina and Northern Colorado. North Carolina FC is a plus 108 in Cary at Wake Med. Your draw is a plus 261. Northern Colorado is a plus 206 with Trevor Ammon, Golden Boot winner in USL League One, and Eamon Zayed, head coach at Northern Colorado, who's done really well in season number 1 there for Northern Colorado. You'd get my coach of the year vote anyway with what they've been able to do at Future Legends this season. So that's your early numbers there. Also on the board, it is, I don't know if you've heard, but there's playoffs that have started in Major League Soccer. But the problem is you're only getting a handful of games at a time. You're only getting a handful of games. It's not like it is in the regular season where it is, 1, 4, 7, and 10. Or you can watch multiple things at once. It is couple here, couple there, couple here, couple there. So we got 5 matches on the weekend. And what that does is it gives us more stuff to talk about as we go. But it is tomorrow is both games are on the free side of Apple TV. And I want to know if Rich, if you and Shooter are going to meet in a neutral location to watch this match together, or if you're going to have some kind of open line of communication with this particular game. The 4-5, Philly, New England at 5 o'clock. LAFC in Vancouver is at 8 o'clock at BMO Stadium. Once again, both of these are on the free side of Apple TV. If you don't have Apple TV, follow along on your local providers, as we always say. And if you can't follow along on local providers, obviously it's on Apple TV. The FS1 games are on Sunday. Philly and New England at Subaru Park. Here's your juice boxes on your Major League Soccer events. And yes, the juice boxes do exist. They carry themselves through the Atlanta United game. That's how advanced right now we are. Philadelphia, courtesy of our friends in the Composited Odds portal, a minus 147, 90-minute draws a plus 318. And the Revs are a plus 353. LAFC's a minus 185. Vancouver's a plus 355 for your 90-minute draw. Vancouver to win outright's a plus 438 in the composite. So we'll start off with Philly and New England. And fun facts for a 5:09 start on Apple TV. Philly and New England will meet in the playoffs for the second time after the Revs eliminated Union 2-0 in the first round in Chester in 2020. In total, Union and Revs have met in the knockout rounds 4 times across MLS playoffs. MLS is back, Open Cup, each side advancing twice. So right there, your fun facts, read it even. Beginning with New England's 2-0 win at the Union in the first round of the 2020 MLS Cup playoffs, the Revs have won 4 of their last 8 meetings with Philadelphia, 4-2-2, after winning 1 of the previous 16, where they lost 11. 11-4. Both Union wins, however, came at home. Union entered the playoffs having drawn 6 of their last 8. The lone loss in time coming on New England on decision day. Philadelphia has lost only 2 of their last 46 home matches in all comps dating back to the beginning of the 2022 season. 2 of their last 46. 30-2, 30-2-14. Win, loss, draw. I know that some of you put the draw ahead of the loss. 30 wins, 2 losses, 14 draws in their last 46. New England hasn't won any of their last 13 away matches in all comps. They've drawn 6 of them. They've lost 7 of them, including 1 penalty shootout win. Revs have totaled only 6 wins in 37 away matches in all comps since the beginning of the 22 season. 6 wins, 18 losses, 13 draws. Daniel Gazdag, 36 goals, listed as second. Julian Carranza is 28 goals and is listed 5th. 2 of the top 5 scoring players in MLS over the last 2 regular seasons, adding Michael Ua's 22 goals. Philadelphia has 3 of the 17 players with 20 or more goals, with 1 team since the start of last year, only team with 3 such players. Clint P.A. will be the 8th interim head coach to lead his team into the MLS Cup playoffs, the 5th since 2019. P.A. is the 2nd interim head coach to reach the playoffs with New England after Steve Nicol led the Revs to the 0-2 MLS Cup final before taking the job on a full-time basis for the 2003 season. But those 2 stats in the middle, fairly daunting for leg 1 for New England. So lean Philly here. Once again, obviously, Philly favored. No real surprise at a minus 147. But those 2 stats, fairly daunting about the last 46 matches at home, losing only twice. And remember, this goes to PKs to determine your match 1 winner. Daunting for leg 1 for Shooter. Script will flip. I think this one's going to go 3. Once again, we talked street fight with a 5 and an 8 in USL Championship. The 4 and the 5 in the East, I think, is going to be a street fight too. And while I'm thinking about it, let's get our referee assignments for the playoffs this weekend. Man in the middle for Philly and the Revs, Pierre-Luc Lozier. Interesting. Nick Uranga, Oscar Mitchell Carvalho are your ARs. Marcos de Oliveira is your fourth. Edvin Jurasevich is your VAR. Fabio Tovar is your AVAR. So let's look up the statistics for Lozier being the man in the middle. 18 matches so far, 385 fouls awarded. So 18 into 38 is 23-6. So 21 fouls per game on average. 55 yellow cards. 3.06. And he has given 1 red in 18 matches this season. 3 yellows. It's toward the low end of the scale. Alan Chapman is also given out 3.06. And I'm looking at ones who are, who have been double-digit officials. Toward the low end of the scale, if not the low end of the scale, for officials that have done more than a dozen games in the middle. So Lozier, 21 fouls called per match, 3 yellows toward the bottom of the ladder. Fouls awarded on average. Let's see. Fotis Bazakos, who's called 19, has 426. So 39 more. 39 more in just as many matches. So Bazakos is averaging 23. Alan Chapman averaging 20. Your friend and mine, Alex Chilowitz, averaging 22, if my math is correct. 50, 50, 54, 25. Yeah, 22. So Chilowitz averages 22. Marcos de Oliveira, by comparison, 19, 20, 19. So de Oliveira is a little higher on the scale, around 25. Your friend and mine, Joe Dickerson, is 38. So 20. And Dickerson, 19. And so it's 19 into 130 is what? 7, 6, 26. So toward the low end of the scale, 21 fouls called toward the low end of the scale, and yellows with 3. So this would benefit Philly, I would think. If you're not going to call fouls, it would benefit Philadelphia going up against the Revs. So you've got an official that doesn't call a lot of fouls, doesn't give a whole lot of yellows. 21 fouls on average, 3 yellow cards. I would say unless Lozier goes against type, that would benefit our friends in Philadelphia in match number 1. So keep an eye on that one. 5 o'clock tomorrow, 5:09 start, and we will keep an eye on match number 1 in that particular competition. Also, LA and Vancouver will be going on at 7:09. Once again, after the fact, there's, it goes to PKs. You come out the other side. 8 o'clock, sorry. 8:09 on the free side of Apple TV. LAFC in Vancouver. We already gave you the juice boxes in that one. Since we are staring at the numbers and the assignments, LA and Vancouver, John Freeman is in the middle. No relation. AR is Chris Elliott, Walt Heatherly. Your fourth is Remy Touchon. Kevin Stott is your VAR. Jeff Mushik is your AVAR. John Freeman's statistics as a man in the middle. Freeman, 560 fouls in 22 matches. 22 into 20 is 44. So 22 into 120 is 5. 25 fouls a match. Averages 3.86 yellow cards. So 25 fouls a match. He's a little on the high side. And he only gives under 4 yellow cards per match. So that could also benefit the home side if you're staring at what to choose from when it comes to LA and Vancouver. Fun facts. First meeting between LA and Vancouver in the MLS Cup playoffs. Only previous knockout round meeting between the two sides took place in the quarterfinals of the CCL. LAFC won 6-0 in aggregate. I would safe to say that Vancouver is a different club now than they were then. Don't know how much different, but this first leg at LAFC could be difficult. Whitecaps earned their first ever win at BMO, which is what they're calling it now, Stadium, June 24th, with a 3-2 win in the regular season. LAFC had gone unbeaten in their first 7 against Vancouver, scoring at least 3 goals in all 4 wins. Since the beginning of July, and this would be the counter argument to LAFC winning a championship, 7 wins, 6 draws, 7 losses, all comps. Scored 31 goals in the 7 wins, an average of 4.4. Scoring at least 4 in the last 6 wins, scoring a total of 8 times in the other 13. So it's feast or famine with LAFC. Either they are scoring or they're not. 4.4 or 0.6. You're getting one or the other with this group from LAFC. Vancouver enters the playoffs having lost only 3 of their last 17 in all comps. Won 7, drawn 7, and lost only 3. Unbeaten in their last 5, but only one of those was a win. Only FCD and Orlando City have suffered fewer defeats than the Whitecaps in all comps since that run began on July 12. Denny Bouanga has won Golden Boot with 20 goals in the regular season. Scored 33 times in all comps in 2023, 12 more than any other MLS player. Daniel Gazdag has 21. Last player to score more goals over a calendar year was Carlos Vela in 2019. And Carlos Vela has some less than kind things to say about the playoff format. Once we've finished previewing the match, we'll get you into we will get you into what Carlos Vela said. And like I said, Carlos Vega was not a happy man when discussing the playoff format. Antonio Quiroga was there for the -1 for LAFC. But also for LAFC, Ryan Gauld and Brian White, 23 with 11 and 12 and 20 with 15 and 5. First pair of Whitecaps teammates to record 20 goal contributions in a single season in club history. In fact, entering this year, only 3 players had ever reached 20. Most recently was Kai Kamara with 14 and 6 in 2018. So Carlos Vela at the -1, he was asked about the he was asked about the playoff format, and less than pleased is probably the best way. The best way to do things. Vela, quote, "It doesn't make sense, but it is what it is. The league decided, and we can only try to win the first 2 to have time to prepare better for the next round. It's complicated. We faced an opponent who, especially at home, is very solid, very difficult, and it'll be a good test to see where the team is, and hopefully we can do it in the best way. In the end, we already had other opportunities to win titles to continue marking history in this club. We know that we've lost opportunities. We know what it means to risk everything in this tournament. And I think that people are very excited with what we really want to and what we want to repeat the title, going to fight to keep the title with us and give everything that we have." So Carlos Vela less than pleased, but it is what it is. Rich, doing the public service in the Twitch pitch, has linked to the Jonathan Tannenwald column involving Jonathan's thoughts when it comes to the new playoff format. Jonathan teases it by saying it's flawed, unpopular, and about to be exposed as incentivizing the wrong kind of soccer. What's the wrong kind of soccer? Teams play in different ways. It just so happens that in this particular format, it would end up being something entirely. I mean, you would be playing the same kind of soccer. You're not going to change who you are in your DNA. You might play differently, but the bottom line is this is what it is. I know that a lot of us would want a home and home aggregate, and if the aggregate's tied, you go to extra time or what have you. Yeah, and yeah, Rich. I mean, I don't necessarily think it'll be all defensive to get to PKs. Not in every single match, every single time. I think that you might have I honestly think that your game, your series with New England is going to be a street fight. But that's what Philly does. Philly's just going to be doing it over 2 or 3 matches against New England, against the New England Revolution. I think that you are going to be who you are. I don't think you're going to change unless you have to come from a deficit situation in a match. And for you, it is traditionally hard to come from behind considering the style that you play. And then if you're a match down, you're going to have to go against type to try to gain. Well, you might. I don't know. Actually, I think about it. If we take Rich, like I said, if we take Rich and Shooter's matchup, if we take that 4-5, I think that the 4-5 is going to be pretty much what we expect from both of these teams. Rich, I don't think you're going to change. New England might have to adapt to you, especially in game 1 on the road. They might have to do things differently. Rich, I think that Philly is going to be Philly. And we've discussed the notion that you could lose 5-0, you could lose 1-0. The bottom line is you've still lost. You just have to come back and win the second, however you can win the second match, and then send it to a third. If you are working from a negative situation, you might have to go against type. But I think at least to start every series, you're going to be who you are. Rich, I think Philly is the greatest example. I think that Philly is going to be who it is. I mean, what Jonathan is saying, flawed, unpopular, and about to be exposed, is incentivizing the wrong kind of soccer. I don't think that's going to be the case in every match. But because it is a best of 3 and not, home and home aggregate, you might get matches where you'll have teams go against type because they have to. Atlanta United without Thiago Almada. It will be interesting to see what the midfield looks like. My guess is it's probably going to be Mateus Osechu and Jay Fortune to go along with Muyumba. And that's why you've had this extra week. Who is going to fit the best with Muyumba and play more defensive so Muyumba can go forth and do his thing? My guess is, like I said, and I have no evidence, no empirical evidence about this at all. It's going to be your first choice lineup with the exception of missing Thiago in the midfield. So that to me means that you're going to have a point guard probably in Hosechu. You will have Muyumba, and then who is that other midfielder that's going to be there to help things out offensively and defensively? If you want Muyumba to go forward with Hosechu as your point guard, then that to me means you're going to need somebody who's going to be more defensive. My guess is it's Jay Fortune. Might be a Marcedic or a combination of those two. That's, I think, your only change for Atlanta in game 1. It does obviously put more impact and more of a spotlight on Hosechu. And maybe you do go 3 at the back and maybe play a 3-5-2 or something like that. Maybe it's both Sadic and Jay Fortune, and you play a 3-5-2. Don't know. But going on the road in leg 1, I don't think, unless he was on the roster, I don't think you can. Unless he was on the submitted postseason roster, I don't think you can. But the roster specifics I would have to look up, but I don't think you can bring him up because he's not a part of what was submitted to the league. Like I said, I don't know. But so, like I said, you're staring at something different. You're staring at something that's going to be a little different for this game only. Do you play more defensive? And this is, and Rich, this is out of necessity. This is not out of pragmatism, and I mean that in the most negative word. So what Jonathan is staring at, I think it would happen in pieces. I don't think it would happen in the overall. LA and Vancouver. LA, and especially in games one, I think you're going to see teams be themselves. And then it's going to be, okay, how do we navigate the rest of the series so we can advance? Houston and RSL is going to be a fun one. Houston, to me, is a 4-5, is going to be the same as Philadelphia and Revs as a 4-5. It's going to be a fun series, at least to start. And if somebody is down a game, I think it just would reinforce who they're going to have to be in game number 2 to equalize. Game 3 would be the one where you might see them go against type. Cincinnati and Red Bulls, I think Red Bulls are going to be who they are. Going in to that series with Cincinnati, they're going to, once again, play like the ball has cooties. They don't want to possess the ball. They're going to want you to have it. They're going to want to force mistakes from you playing deep in your own end, try to create turnovers, short fields, be clinical. I don't think Red Bulls will change who they are because they physically can't. They can't really change their makeup. I think they're going to gum that series up. I mean, literally, they're going to put sugar in the gas tank and a banana in the tailpipe of FC Cincinnati's old sedan. They're going to want to dumb that series down because that's who they are. And the fact that is who they are as the 8 going up against the 1 in a one-off, Red Bulls will be who they are. In a series, Red Bulls will be who they are. I don't think Red Bulls will change. Cincinnati may have to adapt more to Red Bulls if there is an advantage created by Red Bulls after game 1. If the road teams get advantages by winning those first games in the best of 3, you might have to see more changes from the team that is having to fight to equalize in game 2 than you will from the team that was the lower seed that got the win on the road in game 1. St. Louis and Sporting. St. Louis is who they are. Basically, it's Red Bulls Midwest. That's how Bradley Carnell was brought up. I don't see St. Louis changing who they are. Sporting is going to have to be more aggressive to try to get that advantage. And like I said, a lot of this, that what I'm guessing Jonathan is positing because it's behind a paywall, is contingent upon certain things. Like I said, I don't see Philadelphia, New England changing who they are. Philadelphia can't change who they are. Philadelphia can't just sit there and go, oh, we're going to go 3-5-2. We can't do that. That's not a part of their DNA. Rich, I don't think that you can change who you are, especially on a dime, as if you're down in a series. Say New England wins game number 1. Say New England wins game number 1. Are you going to change your 4-4-2 diamond? I don't think so. You're going to be more aggressive. You're going to try to get New England into more trouble to try and even up the series so you can take it back to Chester. I don't think, in Jonathan's example, I don't think they're going to change who they are in his hometown, in his home writing paper. I don't think Philly's going to change. I don't think that the Union are going to change. They might have to amplify who they are if they go down a game, but I don't think Philly changes who they are because they can't. You try to change who you are, if you're Philadelphia specifically, you're probably in trouble. If New England wins game 1, I just think you amplify who you are in game 2. New England, I don't think you change anything if you're down 1. You just try to, once again, amplify who you are in game 2. Vancouver, if they lose, I mean, they've won in Los Angeles this season already. I've got more questions about LAFC than I do answers. Like we just said in the statistic, when they're winning, they're hot. They're averaging 4.4 a match. When they're not winning, they're averaging 0.6 goals a match. Which LAFC team is going to show up for me? LAFC is going to be who they are. If they lose game one, Vancouver being who they are, Vancouver goes home with a chance to win. Vancouver's not going to change who they are. Might be a little more pragmatic, maybe with 30 or 40 to go. You might see more falling down and more killing of time. But I don't anticipate Vanni Sartini, BC Place being the tough place that it is to play for anybody. I don't necessarily see Vanni Sartini, except maybe in the second half if he knows he has an advantage and he can try to coast at home and become more defensive. If the road teams win games one, that's when what Jonathan is positing might happen. I don't think people change who they're going to be going into a series. Houston and RSL, game one's going to be fantastic. FC Cincinnati and Red Bulls, not so much. Red Bulls, once again, Red Bull is going to be who they are. They're not just going to sit there and say, yeah, we'll become a possession team. Red Bulls can't do that. That's not who they are. Red Bulls are going to muck the game up from the beginning anyway. It's who they are. They're not going to change to be that individual. FC Cincinnati is going to try to be who they are, a Borg. They're going to be a soccer Borg, Lucho Acosta pulling the strings, Brandon Vasquez trying to get in behind, like you saw Charlotte attempt to do when they were down. You saw what a guy like a physical presence like Patrick Agyemang could do against a team like Red Bulls. I would anticipate that you're looking at Brandon Vasquez to do the same kind of a thing. But you'll have Lucho Acosta and everybody feeding the ball forward. And you've got a keeper in Roman Celentano. But I think, once again, what is posited in the 5 matches this weekend, St. Louis, all caps is favored at a plus 108. Not a surprise considering that Sporting's on a quick turn. All caps is going to be Red Bulls Midwest. Bradley Carnell came up through their system. It is Red Bullsian in its nature. They're not going to change who they are. Sporting is going to be coming in on short rest. They're going to have to try to push through that first 15 to 20 minutes. And if they get an early goal, then they can shut it down. But I think what Jonathan is positing here is based on the premise that folks are going to go into these series changing who they are. I don't think that's entirely correct. But keep an eye on those road teams this weekend. New England wins. Philly can't change who they are. They'll amplify who they are in game 2. Vancouver's not going to change who they are. They might change something, they might tweak something strategically or anything like that. But they're not going to change their DNA. They might try to, grind out a result if they win in LA, which they've done. Come back to Vancouver for game 2, see the finish line, they'll grind it out. But if they lose game 1, if all these road teams lose game 1, they're going to continue to be who they are and work that much faster to try to get an equalizer to get it to a game 3. So I think that what Jonathan is positing is not entirely correct. But keep an eye on the road teams. Keep an eye on the road teams and see what they look like with these 5 matches this weekend. Oh, we forgot to go through the refereeing assignments for the other matchups. Houston and RSL, Guido Gonzalez Jr. God bless you. Jeremy Kiso, Felicia Mariscal, your AR and your 2 ARs. Alex Chilowitz is your 4th. Drew Fisher's your VAR. Wow. Okay. All right. Houston and RSL, our thoughts are with you. Tom Supple is your AVAR. FC Cincinnati and Red Bulls, Rubiel Vasquez. Oh, wow. Okay. Corey Parker, Jose De Silva, your ARs. Torrey Penso is your 4th. Timothy Ford is your VAR, along with Tyler Y. Rostick is your AVAR. And the battle of the interstate battle, all caps and Sporting. Ted Uncle's in the middle. Corey Richardson, Ryan Graves are your AR. Sergi Boyko is your fourth. Daniel Radford, your VAR. And Kyle Atkins is your AVAR. Oh, Godspeed. Okay. All right. So, Sharif, trophy might be a water pipe valve coming out of a small pitch erected vertically, and maybe a soccer ball pattern on the head of the valve. Maybe too much symbolism in that. Yeah, that might be Sharif. Abby. Newcomer, Gigi. New award, friendliest venue. Another new award. Must develop something for the ref or other than ref of the year and AR of the year, and nothing for VAR. Unsure what. Best handling of a bad situation in a game. Most games where they did their job and didn't make the game about themselves. Need something for the ref. Another new award. Best commentator's expletive on match coverage. I like that. Carnell's goalie. Coach is Carnell. Goalie is Berkey. Defensive player, unsure. Young player, Tiago. Comeback player, Guzan over Miles because he's dealing with age as well. I like that idea. David, the upside of no aggregate score. A team in game one won't shut things down. They might rest guys, but more likely to open things up. Game ones could get wild. David's looking for that 4-4-2 and looking to move TRA up top with Hosechu and Muyumba in a 4-4-2. So 2 strikers is what David is looking for. Like I said, I don't think you're going to change your DNA much. I just think that it might be more point guard based with Hosechu and probably Jay or Amar as your other midfielder in the 4-3-3 to go with Muyumba. So if Muyumba goes forward with Hosechu, who plays defense. And so that's what I'm looking at when it comes to this particular matchup. Obviously, we'll be going at it a lot more. We'll have all of your ideas. And thank you all for your submissions all week long when it came to awards and things. The MLS playoffs start in earnest this weekend. USL Championship are in the conference semifinals. USL are in their league semifinals. You can catch up with folks on the USL Championship show, the USL League One show. We go over MLS Next Pros champions in Austin with Los Verdos. All those shows are on the network. It's been a fun week across the board. Thanks to everybody who has participated, and thanks to all of you guys, as you always do. Thanks to Neal Ruhl for coming on today on short notice and being a part of everything. Obviously, we'll be back at it again on Monday. We'll go over all of the stuff that happened this weekend to just be prepared for all of that. If you missed the Ian Cameron interview to where we do stuff with South Georgia Tormenta and catch up with them, that is on the network also. It's a really good interview with Ian and with what is going on at Tormenta. Thanks to Dylan. Thanks to Bart. Thanks to Kaylor Hodges in the USL show. Thanks to Nico, as always. And I'm trying to see if I missed anybody. Once again, and thanks to Neal Ruhl for letting everybody know what's going on as an 8 beat a 5, or as an 8 plays a 5, as an 8 beat a 1 coming up this weekend. What to watch on TV before we go, and it's today because obviously we're going to be watching a lot of Major League Soccer stuff on the weekend as we get ready for the opening round of the playoffs. Jason Kidd joined the ownership group of the Oakland Roots, by the way. ACC Network has college women's action. North Carolina, Virginia, 7:30. BN and BN and Espanol have Ligue 1, Clermont and Nice at 3 o'clock. And Lyon, by the way, is in a serious hurt right now when it comes to the Ligue 1 standings. And, for a team that had been doing so well, they are at the bottom of the table. Have not won in their first 9. They've only scored 7 goals. They've given up an average of 2 a game. And they are legitimately in trouble after the first 9 matches. There's 25 to go, but they only have 3 points. They're 5 points from safety. And Montpellier gave themselves a federation decision to take a point away. But Lyon has not won in their first 9. Traditional team to make it into the European competitions, 0-3-6 out of the blocks. If you do not have BN Sports or BN Espanol, you can pick that up at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the show, helps out the network, helps them out, helps you out. Get you TIC, get you For the Fans, get you CDO, get you Nuestra Tele, get you Libertadores and Sudamericana games, get you BN, all the BN networks, and you can watch everything from AFCON to what's going on in Central and South America. Fanatis.com, fntz.co/soccer down here. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. UEFA Women's Nations League, England and Belgium's at 2:45 on CBS Sports Network. Crystal Palace and Spurs gives you Friday night football at 3 o'clock on USA. ESPN Deportes, Girona Celta de Vigo's at 3 o'clock. Fox Deportes has the league that we are not talking about or mentioning or covering at 2 o'clock. Goal TV has, and then Goal TV you can also get on Fanatis. Triple header, you've got Libertad in the Ecuador Primera at 8, Portuguese Primeras at 3:15, ACC Extra 5 women's matches at kickoff at 7 o'clock, ESPN Plus, Belgium, the Eredivisie, the Bundesliga, La Liga, USL Championship tonight. Remember, that's on ESPN Plus. A lot of men's action in the college game, 3, 6, 9, 12 college matchups on the men's side, 7 on the women's side. Flo has William and Mary and Stony Brook at 7. Fox Soccer Plus has the league that we're not talking about overseas in the Middle East. Paramount Plus has Serie A at 2:45 with Genoa, Salernitana, and England and Belgium. Whew. One more before we go. Abby, playoffs is where if Apple wants to expand, they should allow free showing of soccer for this year. Let's get new people hooked, then they can get subscribers for next season. I'm hoping that's why they're showing a lot of the stuff on the free side of Apple TV. And, yeah, playoffs for free. Put them all on the free side. They're doing some of that. At least they're starting out with opening weekend, putting it on the free side. Abby, as always, belated happy anniversary. Thanks for hanging out with us. All the news that's fit to print. Go to your favorite sources. Watch all the games this weekend. There's going to be street fights. We'll be back at it again Monday morning, 9:05. From all of us to all of you here at SDH, thanks for being there with us. And once again, if you forgot, for the second year in a row, SDH has won a Silver Davy Award when it comes to the network. So thanks to our friends at the AIVA for believing us worthy of having a Davy. So we'll be back at it again 9:05 on Monday morning. Since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. Play it safe, everybody. Mucha platial. And I'm going to get some caffeine in my system. Do the same. Be safe. We'll see you Monday. Unless, of course, you hit the wrong thing and you hit the intro instead of the outro. How about hitting the outro?